Today, we're looking at episode 2 of the Amazon Prime Video series, and there's a lot packed in there, to put it mildly. It's us again, Dominic
and Anthony, and we're climbing up the tower.
So, join us for Deadlines Inside the Ring, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power After Show.
In the Southlands, an ominous underground tunnel is discovered by elf watchman Arondir and human healer Bronwyn. Galadriel is rescued from the sea by a ragtag group of humans.
Leaning into more of J.R.R. Tolkien's lore, the elves are planning to build a massive tower with a great furnace, but they lack the workforce to pull it off, which leads Elrond to travel to the dwarf mountain kingdom of Khazad-dûm in the hopes of rekindling his friendship with Crown Prince Durin.
It doesn't go well at first, but thanks to Durin's wife, Princess Disa, Elrond and Durin bury the hatchet, and the elf's proposal is passed on to the king. Harfoots, Nori and Poppy, discover the mysterious stranger who has fallen from the sky.
Nori! Poppy!
The relationship between Nori and Poppy, it's comedic, but it's so deeply emotional. How was that, creating that relationship of what it seemed like two people have been friends since they were born?
It was really fun.
It was fun. I think we didn't have a chemistry test, so kind of the first time that we met was just a couple weeks before our first rehearsal, and so it was quite a privilege to be able to call us hanging out as research and preparation, and we just got on really well, I guess.
Yeah. Thank God.
Nori has this inclination to get into trouble, and Poppy follows.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is that? She's already becoming Poppy. Well, yes, so Nori does have quite an innate sense of curiosity, and she's quite inquisitive, but she does lead with the best of intentions. You know, it's not just a selfish interest in the unknown. She's very much wanting to help the Harfoots find a home. And sometimes she drags Poppy into this risk-taking and adventure. It's not always the best decision, and Poppy likes to remind her of that.
Oh, yeah. Poppy is definitely the most cautious of the two of them, but it's definitely the yin to Nori's yang. What sort of drives Poppy in sort of following Nori is the love and loyalty that she has for that friendship. But there's also something in the back of Poppy's mind that is curious. She's so strong-minded that she wouldn't do anything that she doesn't want to do. She very much knows her mind and knows what is right. But there is something that is intriguing about lots of the things that Nori does and the kind of life that, you know, Nori kind of strives for, I think is safe to say. And I think sometimes she enjoys telling Nori no. I think she does find some kind of joy in that sometimes. But also, most of the time, it's incredibly infuriating.
Yeah.
But as part of that, you know, one of the main examples of that is the arrival of the stranger. Nori clearly is like, over and into the crater.
Yeah.
And Poppy's like, whoa, 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 whoa. That character holds so much intrigue. But you guys are the conduit by which we know the character and how we learn this character. Literally, you teach this character how to move, talk, and feel. How was that dynamic?
Yeah, I think initially, and I think that also as we're discovering who the stranger is and where exactly how he's landed in the world that we're in, the audience is also doing the same. So it's quite a lovely symbiotic relationship between the audience and us as actors, I would say. And also Daniel Wayman, who plays the stranger, had built such an incredible inner life that we were able to just respond to that.
I'm trying to help you, but I'm just a Harfoot.
Working with those two has been like nothing else, just working off them, connecting with them, feeling, I think we all felt a deep early connection. We played off each other quite easily. And we did a lot of improvisation works and rehearsal works and teasing script ideas and chatting to JD and Patrick. And it was what I always imagined acting would be at its best.
We did so many improvisations, and you know,
in the park,
you know, he would literally, there was one I remember particularly one afternoon we would organise to meet in the park to rehearse, and he just said, "I'm by the tree." What does that even mean? We're in a park. Where is this tree? And then I think we're like, no, this makes sense. He wants us to find him. This is the rehearsal has begun.
Me eye rolling.
Yeah, exactly.
And Mark Heller going, let's go. It was really actually very characterful.
It worked, yeah. And, you know, we had
we had these elastic bands as well that we tied
right.
around each other's wrists so that she would pull and I would pull and we would never lose each other.
We had this idea that we're always in a bit of a push and pull relationship, and sometimes Nori just wants to fall down this rabbit hole, and each time she takes a step away from the community, the rope becomes like even more taut and wears down. But I think that the stranger almost helps kind of refresh their relationship and in a new way.
Will the stranger ultimately impact their friendship, though?
That is to be seen. Yes.
There is already an impact.
There is already an exactly, and I think it just continues. It evolves as the story moves forward.
Can you tell us about the scene where he kills the fireflies and what your reaction is?
Well, the fireflies mean something very personal to Poppy.
Yeah.
It's very sad, but it's also incredibly worrying and scary. And so many more unknowns. So many more questions are raised, and so much more anger is presented within her. You know, the shot where she's holding the firefly and then she says, Nori. When we were filming, I wanted that to not just be like a, oh my God, it's dead. I wanted it to kind of be like a more encapsulating Nori, like a, you know, meaning so many different things. Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of Poppy's relationship with the stranger anyway, I think.
When we talk about the stranger and learning about who he is, what he may be, the scene with the fireflies and the disappointment and sorrow that the girls feel as he kills them, essentially. The accident of his power and what there could be a wrath there.
I think that's right, and I think this feeds into his energy, his need for elemental energy around him. I think at this stage he isn't clearly fully formed, but he's beginning to understand. Does he understand? I don't know. But he's beginning to tap into these energies. And I think in that scene, there is a need that he has to understand this deep inner purpose. And it's like he pulls with this sort of magnetism, this energy out of these things, which for a moment looks to us like it's wonderful, looks like it's incredibly moving and, you know, how fantastic. And then we realize that he's taken their life force in order to do that. I found those scenes, you know, as an actor, they're both really incredible to play because you get this superhuman power, which is tremendously invigorating, but also it is slightly terrifying that you can have that effect, you know,
On another creature.
On another creature.
Yeah.
You have a great mystery at hand here with the stranger. Who is this guy? What was your inspiration for that?
Very early on, as we were talking to Amazon about this, we were doing this deep dive into the lore, into the Second Age, which is the period thousands of years before the Frodo adventures where the story is set, and looking at what all the different beings in Middle-earth were doing at the time. And there's this prologue that's really lovely, if you read it at the beginning of the book, concerning hobbits. And Tolkien talks about the wandering days. And he talks about the three branches of Harfoots and Fallowhides and Stoors before they would later move across the mountains and found the Shire and become the hobbits. We thought that was incredibly fertile terrain. And one of the very early ideas was some form of halfling who would have a being land in their backyard, more or less. And this being would be mysterious and talk in weird language, and whether they're here for good or ill would be sort of a little bit in the E.T. Iron Giant realm, but with an edge where you're not quite sure where this person is coming from. That was one of the early ideas.
For me, it was one of the things as a producer I was the most afraid of.
Why?
They have a very ambitious idea for what to do with this character, and on the page, I could not picture how it was going to work. He doesn't speak much at first. For me, as a producer, you look at that on the page and you think, okay, is it going to hold? You know, will it be worth the screen time? And then we started the casting process, and I was very skeptical and vocal to these guys about it. Like, guys, I don't know. And then along came Daniel Wayman, and it just became instant.
And his audition, we had him literally doing just these sort of almost like theater exercises where he's, you know, on the ground, you know, and we're like, communicate this emotion.
I think he was wearing a bathrobe in those audition tapes.
We did talk about Buster Keaton and, you know, silent film, and like, we want this to be a character who's communicating through gesture and through his eyes, and we find his performance really, really extraordinary.
The stranger, where you drew inspiration from in playing what is largely a non-verbal character.
It's been pretty easy, actually, in that the way the story's been written by Patrick and JD, and the way then that the creative teams around that, whether that's hair and makeup, costume, movement, dialect, you know, all these different groups have sort of fed into me their ideas of the stranger. And obviously I had some as well, but the way that things took shape as costume and hair and makeup formed, and then we looked at movement all of those things sort of created the stranger for me, and I felt that the way they wrote, they gave me exactly what I needed in any given moment.
As far as his arc goes, did you learn about it on a script by script basis, or did they explain it to you well ahead?
I mean, they explained, yeah, I mean, they let me in on what the stories they're trying to tell, but I think the real specificity comes, you know, on a script by script basis.
So we're going to get a bit more than Man Who Falls from Sky.
Sorry?
Durin didn't tell me you were coming. Durin didn't know.
How does it feel to play the first female dwarf?
It feels amazing. To be able to be in her shoes or gold boots is something that I could have only ever dreamed of, and to make the Dwarven Kingdom, Middle-earth Kingdom, that little bit more accessible for all the generations to come that will be bouncing off of this version is very, very special to me, and I hope to many people that will be watching it.
Give us a sense of how the two of you worked at creating what is such an unbelievable amount of chemistry and humor in unexpected places.
Well, we just hit it. Do you know what? It's so easy, I have to say. I mean, there are layers there and complexities that we discussed before going on to set and stuff, but the second we met, I'm speaking for myself here, it was an instant click that you just go, oh, I feel at home with Sophia. And I think, and that's literally what we did. We went upstairs to my room, had a cup of tea.
Yeah.
And just chatted for ages and just couldn't stop. And that's kind of what we do all the time. We just chat and we can't. So, well, she can't stop.
You're staying for dinner.
He's leaving.
He's staying.
He's leaving.
He's staying.
It's clear from the very beginning, as soon as you guys are introduced, the complexity of your relationship and that relationship as it's going to play into the larger world here.
What's great about Durin and Disa's relationship is at the core of it is a huge amount of love and respect, and she knows his heart. And I think she is one of the only people, if the only person, to be able to access a place that exists within Durin, but to just calm and to open his eyes to things which kind of he already knows, but to soothe him and to look after his confidence and his strength.
I'd say you know me better than anybody. I mean, that's what's great. When I lose my temper with Elrond and you know, I literally spit my dummy and go, no, I don't want to see you again.
Yeah.
You're the one who kind of knows what's best for me, and you bring me round to that.
Yeah.
But also, in terms of that, and you talk about them being a team, but there's also some serious secrets they're keeping and some serious plans they have.
It's true. It's true. I mean, the Dwarven community, especially in Khazad-dûm, is so secretive that any force that comes from outside is treated with suspicion.
And they're so change resistant.
Yes, absolutely. Very traditional, I suppose, is the word. So it's kind of part of our nature as dwarves to keep that secrecy. And that's a really tight bond between us all. But then you got an even stronger bond then between Durin and Disa that's special. And you don't really need to say anything to know that it's there.
And also exploring the flexibilities of our kingdom.
And also, he's the heir.
He is heir to the throne. And so we want to keep that. So we work together in order to fight for the best for our country and to keep the very, very powerful and necessary secrets of our kingdom.
Right off the bat, when Elrond comes in, there is this competition with Durin. Give us a sense of how you put the scene together, because there's a lot that is unspoken between the two characters as they're trying to be as macho as they can be.
I think there's a little more to it than that, if I'm honest. That Sigyn Tahag has consequences. And I think Elrond takes a big risk. You know, it was a gamble for him to come in. And the fact that he lost that battle that we had meant that he was never, ever allowed back into Khazad-dûm. The fact that he is let in immediately afterwards and to see his wife and children, it kind of shows how close they are. And even the traditions of Khazad-dûm can't keep them apart. It means that their friendship is deeper than that.
I have asked for nothing but your ear.
Aye, and that's how it starts. And soon enough, we're left with our thumbs in our eyes.
Has it ever been so between us?
I don't know. Has it?
Only his beard.
Durin and Elrond, they reconcile,
Yeah.
and Disa leads them to the place they need to get to.
You're correct in saying that's when I forgive him, but obviously I wouldn't have done if Disa hadn't have told me to. Although I do have to say, the fact that I let him back in to come and say hello to Disa, because I want him to. I want him to see my wife. I want him to see what he's missed out on. But also in a true Durin trait, he also wants to punish him at the same time. He does forgive him, but he's angry about the fact that he's forgiven him as well, which is great as an actor, to have that antithesis in every scene.
Sorry, sit down.
Please, I hardly wish to intrude.
I said sit.
Are you certain?
No, and I'm still angry.
Elrond, when he walks into that dinner, he's hopeful that things will work out, but not confident. And he says as much. Everything is different. I think he's learning a lot about how you can achieve something, how you can get something done in friendship, in politics. And I think throughout this season, he learns that it's not as simple as he hoped it would be.
Is he exploiting his relationship, his friendship with Durin?
I don't think he's exploiting it. I think he's recognized an opportunity. He has a best friend who's a dwarven prince. And so in his eyes, the idea of this great project that is going to help this other legend achieve what he wants to achieve, being aided by his best friend is a great opportunity to bring people together. And I think if you look at Elrond and what he achieves in his life, that is probably the greatest achievement, bringing peoples together.
So is Elrond taking advantage of Durin?
I don't think he is. There's more to explore there, certainly. But Elrond and Durin have a relationship and have been through quite a lot together. And we've developed a narrative that's quite forward-thinking, I believe.
Did both of you eat snails? Because those are some really big snails.
Yes, I did eat a lot of snails. But they were actually, it was like lollies. It was so sugary, and there was like this really sweet syrup that was on over them. And
were they made of chocolate?
No.
Oh no!
I wish they were.
Oh
no, they weren't. But Daniel had to eat them as well, and because he had to eat the shells almost, they were made out of chocolate. So he had this like beautiful chocolate, and he'd be like, "This is amazing, Mark. So this is so beautiful." And I would be there with like really slimy, syrupy.
Oh, of course,
gelatin.
You take the snail out.
Yeah. So but what was amazing? Obviously, they weren't moving when I was eating them on the day. But then I'd go into ADR, and just the detail of the way they'd like wriggle in my arms and the way and fingers and the way they did that was quite surreal.
Were those rocks made out of balsa wood, or were those real rocks?
Oh, real rocks. They were real rocks. No, they weren't real rocks. That was one of the cool things about the scale. Sometimes it's high tech, trying to make me look taller than Owain, and sometimes it's me stood on a ladder and him on his knees. Or me breaking a smaller rock and him breaking a bigger one, so that whenever they can make it practical, they do. When they can avoid green screen, it's always the intention.
How did the makeup inform both of your performances?
I felt like as an actor, Disa arrived when the makeup and costume went on. There was so much incredible prep and conversations and collaboration. Disa wears these heavy gold boots, which just root my body and my soul into the ground, which is a real dwarven trait. Then we have this silk costume with an unapologetic slice all the way up her thigh. Suddenly we can immerse into these characters and embody them. And of course, the beauty of the costume, the eyes, the contact lenses, which imply and give a nod to the magic and the gift that she holds.
You spent, 3 hours? 3 hours?
Correct.
How long Sophia, how long did you spend in makeup and prosthetics every day?
It's 3 hours, but Sophia likes to exaggerate now and again. So how long is it today?
Okay, I'm gonna get 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours.
Yeah, it'll get up to 7 eventually. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on Deadline's Inside the Ring. We'll be back next week with a deep dive into episode 3 of the series.
See you then.
Whoa! Oh my God! I see the
See you later. We have to try everything.
Drink.
Hello.
Keeping this for later.
I don't care about the show. I just want a good blooper reel.
I want to learn science.
You guys are going to make me look like I'm in the show, right? You're going to put in the effects. Replace the green. I don't want to look like an asshole.
Sorry.